Welcome to the Burning Ones podcast. Join us here as we confront hard topics women battle in our culture today with the truth of Scripture, testimonies from powerful voices across the globe, and Spirit-led strategy. Our goal is to see the fulfillment of one great cause, on earth as it is in heaven. We are the Burning Ones.
Hello, empowered women. We hope that you have been doing well. We've got a special guest today, Kelsi Peoples.
Hello.
Also my best friend, so there's that.
Best friends.
Oh, I didn't know. It's not like we've spent all day together. It's fine, and all day yesterday together.
I don't know if this is like a good thing or a bad thing, but they're going to get like a little snapshot of like who we are together.
Newsflash, wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, so like kind of what's been going on just honestly across, I feel like predominantly in America, is secret sin in the church being exposed. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. A little bit of background. When Dre and I first stepped in as the worship leaders here at LifeBridge, one of our first challenges.
I love that you're cracking up. Like, yes.
Because it's like a full circle. I can laugh about it now
For
because
sure.
I cried about it back then.
Oh,
Bawled my eyes out,
you did.
actually. I wasn't even there.
I know.
Okay, but it's like a full circle moment. So when Dre and I first stepped in 2.5 years ago, our first challenge was to address Kelsi
Dun, dun, dun.
with secret sin, which honestly, it wasn't a secret.
Wasn't a secret.
It wasn't a secret, but
No.
like she is still on our worship team as a leader. She's a vocalist. She helps a lot in youth, but there was something lingering.
There was. For very many years.
Many years.
Many
And it
years.
is something that we had to address because Dre and I were like, as much as we love her, this can't happen. So tell us what happened. Tell us.
I love it. These people are probably like, what happened? What
And
did
we
you
just
do?
keep
Who did
going.
you kill? What happened? No. Okay.
It's not that serious.
No, it's not. It's not. But, and I think it's so good. Like, so first and foremost, I think it's important to let people know that I was not raised in church. I mean, we went to church, but I wasn't raised in church. I wasn't raised with the values of church and all of that. And so I lived a crazy life. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s, 2020, where I had an encounter with Jesus and he radically changed my life. But also the biggest blessing in my life is my daughter Kennedy, who is in the building right now.
She's
Kennedy,
watching us
she's
right
watching
now.
us, so I'm going to try to make this be very careful about some of the words that I do choose. But she's going to be 9 this summer. So I had been dating my then boyfriend. We had been together since 2012. So many years we had been together. And we had a problem of actually, I didn't, but one of us had a problem with committing to the other person.
Not naming any names.
Not naming any names about marriage. And honestly, it had a lot to do with things that he had gone through in his life, and he had seen a lot of his friends be married and gotten divorced and all of that. And so that was like definitely a challenge. So we were living together, practicing being married, and we were not married for many years. And it was honestly the biggest battle, I would say, in our relationship, because I had such a desire for that, but he didn't. And there were every conversation or every thing that led into a fight always was around marriage. And what's so crazy about it all, which it isn't crazy, is that I knew what I was supposed to do. Like, I knew the Lord had shared. I mean, I had words from people. And honestly, when you're a new Christian, just being super transparent, there's like times when you're like, okay, is that my inner thoughts, or like, is it the Lord telling me that? Like, am I supposed to do that? And because we had a house together, we had, a child together, to think about stopping that because I wasn't doing the right thing was the most terrifying thing ever. But we had conversations. Like we had conversations. He's like, yeah, someday, yeah, someday, yeah, someday. Well, we were going on 10 years, and that someday was not approaching, and it wasn't approaching quickly. And so even though like we had never gone ring shopping, there was a lot of things that happened, and my feelings were very much hurt over that, but we could never get on the same common ground over it. And so leading up to that day, I had already felt like the Lord was leading me into that direction because my life had changed so much. I went from, living a lifestyle completely separated for him my entire life to being radically saved and changed my music, changed my friend group, I went from not reading the Bible at all or only starting in like the first couple chapters of of Genesis and then starting all over to reading the Bible like 4 times in 1 year, like just crazy stuff. And so I knew it was already on my heart, if that makes sense. Like the Lord had already been talking to me about it. And so one day, Dre sends me this message. That's Allie's husband. And he's like, hey, girl, what are you doing tomorrow? Can you meet me up at church? And mind you, I am so excited. Like, I'm like, this is it. Like, he's going to be like, Kelsi, you can lead a song. Like, he said that. He's like, you can lead a song. Like, I was just so ready. Okay. Like, I was like so pumped. So I get there extra early.
Oh, mind you, I can't even be there. This was before I was full time. So I was doing hair and I was texting Dre the whole time. I was like, please don't make her cry. Like, do everything that you can to make sure that she's okay. And Dre is so kind. Like, how he words things. He's like, did you just correct me? Like, for real. He's really good about that. But I was so nervous the whole time. And I was so sad that I couldn't be there because I was like, this is going to make him look like a bad person. She's going to hate us.
Yeah.
But everything worked out in the end, so it's fine.
I meet Dre in the cafe, and there's a couple people working in the morning, staff members. We're sitting there and stuff, and he's like, hey, Allie couldn't be here. And he's like, I think he asked me a few questions, like, how do you feel like it's going? I felt like I was getting interviewed for a second. I was like, this is not the direction I think I was going. And I knew because we were out in the open and, like, Allie wasn't there, that it was more of a serious topic. And he was just like, man, he's like, you can still be on the worship team, but we can't have you leading or being on stage on Sundays because your lifestyle is not biblically sound. And what was crazy about that was my first instinct, because this is what's crazy, is for a year and a half, we had been living together, but we were not living as married people. Without me having to get too in detailed, we weren't living as married people. So, but we were living in the same household. And I made that decision because I felt like the Lord was telling me to do that. And I know he was. And we had agreed on that. And I said, until we get married, then we can, even though that had already happened, I wanted to change and I wanted to live my life, for Jesus and all of that. And so that literally goes through my mind, was like, but I'm not even living in sin. Like, all these things in my mind were like, that was my first instinct. And then I look at Dre and I sob. Like, I cried like if somebody had died that I knew. And I looked at him, I go, I'm not mad at you. Like, I want you to know I'm not mad at you. I go, I'm so mad at myself. Oh, I'm not even going to get emotional. But I was like, I'm so mad at myself because, like, I had heard the Lord saying it for so long. And, like, it was almost like the Lord had to do something drastic for me to make the change if I wasn't going to do it on my own, And I was so thankful for that moment. So he was like, he's like, I want you to know that this comes out of place of love. And I knew it. Like, I never once felt like he was judging me. I never once felt like condemned. I also knew that it was time. Like, it was time for me to face, the decisions that I had made and the consequences that came with that. Like, I do believe no matter what you're doing, you will have consequences here on earth for the decisions that you made. And this, unfortunately, was mine. And so I went and I went home, and then Pastor Megan messaged me. She's like, I just want you to know that we're in your corner and we love you so much. And like, if you have any questions or anything. And I think I had called my friend Candace at the time, and we had talked, and what I loved so much about the situation was like, you have good friends when they call you higher.
Yeah.
And no one was
Yeah.
in my corner saying like, oh, they were wrong. Why did they do this? They were like, listen, they're right. I know that this stinks that you have to go through this, but they're right. And we're calling you higher. And I felt like, it's so weird, but I felt like so honored that people cared so much about my journey and about me making right decisions and being in good standing. And also, like, I think it's First Thessalonians, and it says, flee from all things that look evil. And even though that I might have not been practicing sinful things in my household, I still, how did that look to somebody who did not know my intimate inside life? And so it gave me an opportunity to just lay it all down and just say, you know what? I don't know, Lord, what your plan is for our relationship. This is 10 years. This is a whole child. This is everything. Like, I don't know what your plans are, but like, I have all these people who are behind me. Plus I have you. Like, I'm going to trust you that you know what's best for me. And I think that was like my first true act of surrender, was for me to, because listen, for 10 years I tried it. For 10 years I tried to do it my own way. I tried to fix him. I tried to make him marry me. I tried to do all of the things, say all the right things, be the best, cook all the dinners, clean the house, do all the things that a married woman did, but I didn't have the Lord in it. And he couldn't bless something that he wasn't involved in. And so I decided that day, I think I took like a day to just cry. And I was like, I just need a day to cry. And then you had reached out to me and you're like, I love you so much. I'm so sad that I wasn't there. And I think I wrote something to you like, I'm not mad at you. I want you to know, like, I love you guys so much. And I do understand why this is happening. We've
It doesn't
never
mean that it doesn't hurt though.
No, it doesn't. But you know what's crazy? We've never told this story.
Never.
Like, to anyone. Like, this is so good. I just stopped because I was like, I don't think people really know.
No. I mean, I think people could tell because Kelsi just like disappeared off stage for a while. But one thing I will say is she never stopped coming to church. Just because she disappeared doesn't mean that she disconnected. And I think that is something that people get wrong. They think, I was talking about what? I'm sorry? Talking about this with someone else, I feel like oftentimes people think correction is it's punishment.
Rejection.
It is. I mean, that's what people think, but it's not. You can take correction as it calling you higher, or you can let it bring you down.
For sure.
Honestly. But what Kelsi did was honestly what we all need to be doing. We need to take the correction and we need to let it call us higher. Just because you get corrected doesn't mean that you're in trouble. It just means that you're being called higher. Now, that doesn't mean that you disconnect completely from the church, because we need the church, we need the body. And she stayed consistent. She stayed coming to literally everything. That doesn't mean that she just stopped coming altogether. No, she was coming to literally everything. And you could you could see the difference taking place in her now husband, and in her daughter, and it was monumental for their family. And now the whole dynamic of their family has completely shifted. Completely shifted.
Well, and I think that it even says a lot about you, like, because you and Dre, because in that moment, I mean, you had the opportunity, if people asked questions, you could have answered them, but you were, I mean, no one knew. Like, still to this day, no one knew. Like, and I felt like such a protection from you guys, which I think is the reason why we became best friends, was because there was such a trust built there. And I had never had somebody who had challenged me to be greater, only people who would side with me in deception that I was in. And so I knew that it was out of love. So what people don't know, you of course know, but what a lot of people don't know is that that week, that Friday, I think this happened on a Monday. And on that Friday, I asked my now husband, I said, hey, like, let's go on a date. Let's get a sitter. And so we did. And I'm over here and I'm like, I know I've got to do something.
Yeah.
I've got to say something.
Like shaking.
And and I'm like, you know, when you know, and you're like, I don't even know what's going to happen. And I'm like literally praying like, Lord, just say it for me.
Yeah. You just have to start it.
Because I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
But we were sitting there and we were eating. And I said something super corny, but I love it because it still works. But I said something, and I asked him, I said, you know, in the Bible, how God talked to Abraham and how he talked to Moses and he commanded Moses and he commanded Noah to build this ark and he listened to him. And like, what if he didn't listen to him? And and he commanded Moses, and what if Moses didn't listen to him? I'm telling him like all this stuff. And, you know, he's just over there. He's like, yeah.
That's good.
And I was
Why
like,
aren't they listening?
Yeah. And I said, what would you do? I'm just being honest. I'm like, what would you do if God spoke to you and asked you to do something that you knew would it might hurt somebody or was going to be so hard for you to do? Like, what would you do? And he looked at me, he's like,
are you setting me up for failure?
No, he was not following. Like at this point he wasn't. And he looks at me, he's like, I would hope I would do it. And that's when I told him, I said, you know,
okay, good.
Because this has to happen. And what was so great, because I told him, I said, we can still be together. I love you so much. Like, this is not the end of whatever. And then he looked at me and he said, let's get married this week. And I remember being like, excuse me?
She texted me.
Excuse me?
And she was like, so I guess we're getting married. And I was like, that's one way to do it. And you can hear their daughter in the background. Yeah, it's so cute. But I was like, all right, let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, it was so wild. So we went from 10 years of living a life of sin and not having the Lord involved in it to some people, some very special people calling us higher and speaking life into us and what they see in our future for us, and then us completely surrendering, not our will, but your will be done, God.
Yep. And
seeing what he did, and in literally everything that I had ever wanted this man to say, he had said. And I was like looking, I was like, okay, I get it. Like, okay, I get it, God. You're in control.
Your ways are better.
So much. Like, and then you think like, man, why didn't I just listen however long ago? Like, what would have happened? And he honestly still doesn't know this story, that this is what prompted me. But I just, it's so crazy.
Blake doesn't know that?
No. Oh. He doesn't know that.
Oh, he does now.
He doesn't know I was asked to step down for that season or whatever.
Because honestly, that I could see where if you started with saying, "Hey, the reason why why I've been stepped down is because we're not married," that would seem like manipulation. Okay, 100%. Well then let's get you back on the stage. 100%. Let's get married.
100%.
And that's not what it was about.
Well, and I didn't want him to hold any bitterness towards the church,
right? Towards
you guys, and honestly, it had nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It had everything to do with what we were doing and how we were living.
Yeah.
You guys were just the ones that were like, listen, we love you so much that we don't want you to continue living this way. We see what's better, no matter if that means that you're together or not. Like, God has a plan for you. And I'm just thankful that it happened in the way that it did, because it became such a beautiful, beautiful story that we were married in less than 30 days. Afterwards, you and Dre sang at our wedding.
Sang at the wedding. I was pregnant and didn't even know it.
It's wild.
And now she's Kennedy. With Holland. Yeah.
And all the people that loved and supported me helped put together a backyard wedding in less than 30 days.
And that's what I love about it too, is it was in the backyard of y'all's house. Mm-hmm. Like the house that was once not under the right covenant.
Yep.
Was then restored.
So good.
And like
it's so good.
It's just so good. Like it makes me teary-eyed for some reason. It's just so good. Like the Lord is so good, and he's so faithful. Then the thing is too is like he's just so kind. He's so kind to us, because that could have gone a whole other direction.
Oh yeah, I mean there could have been a lot more pain. There could have been a lot more hurt, and I think that he saw two people that genuinely loved each other and two people that wanted to make things work, but he had to work on, our hearts. And and all of that, and we had to put him at the center of it. And once it became less about us and more about him, then that's when it worked, which is wild to me. And so good.
Isn't that funny though how it happens? But I think that there's like some really like all of that included, there's some more really valuable key points that are involved in that. If you find yourself, like I'm talking to the listeners right now, but if you find yourself in an unhealthy relationship and you're doing marital things and you're not married by paper,
Right.
just know that you are married by covenant.
Right.
And Keela talked about this last week.
It was
2
actually
weeks
perfect
ago.
timing.
I was like, and the way that she worded it was just so good. Like, back in the old days, they didn't have a paper that said that you were married to somebody. No, what said that you were married?
Yeah.
The covenant that was established when you two became one.
Yep.
And it's so important to recognize that. And I feel like this day and age, marriage has no value anymore. Like, it has nothing.
Well, I think that's the reason why he was holding off for so long, was because when you are given everything that you're supposed to wait for, then what's the point? Like,
because now you're just waiting on a piece of paper.
And it's unfortunately, I believe the trap of the enemy is to make us believe that it's not important, that it's not valid. But then what we don't know is every time that we, have a relationship like that, we make a new covenant with a person. And that's, that's
the woman at the well.
Yes, that still shakes
when
me
the
to
Lord
my
was
core.
like, she was like, I don't have a husband. He was like, no, you're right. You've had 5.
And the one that you're with is not your husband. Can you even imagine?
That's wild.
Yeah, that is
because
wild.
he literally just said, without saying it, that a piece of paper doesn't say that you're married. It's the covenant that's established whenever you two become one that says that you're married.
And I think that's why she was so shocked in that moment, because I don't think that was probably something very public that everyone knew. But
I'm sure
knew
not.
in her heart. That's why she went and confessed to everyone. He told me everything that I ever did.
Yeah.
He knew her deepest, darkest secrets, which were laying with 5 men. And then 6.
And she goes, and theologists say that she is one of the most amazing evangelists now in history.
Yep.
Because after the Lord exposed her sin, she was set free from it. And she was like, I can't help but just tell people.
Yeah.
How insane is that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so this is my encouragement to listeners today. If you have friends that are on your side and that are saying that it is okay for you to live in unrepentant, willful sin, I would encourage you to maybe find different friends.
Yeah.
Find friends that call you higher. Find friends that are not okay with you settling in your dirt and in your sin.
Yeah.
Find friends that are going to fight for you, that are going to fight for your salvation, that are going to fight for your sanctification.
There you go.
That are going to fight for you and your whole family unit to be whole, complete, restored, reconciled. Don't be friends with people that are okay with you staying in the same sin that you've always been in.
Yeah, that's so good.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And there's nothing fulfilling in that. And now Kelsi and her husband, they go to this church, and she's a leader, and she leads a whole other team.
Yeah.
And her husband is on security.
So good.
That's wild.
It's so wild.
That's wild to me.
Yep. For someone who never took off Sundays, always worked Sundays, every single Sunday. And it was, it was a lot of praying, and it was a lot of, encouragement and not condemning. Like, I feel like even what you're saying is like, when you're calling your friends or people that you know higher, you're not condemning them for what they are in, but you're seeing them for who God sees them and for who they're called to be. And if Allie wouldn't have done that for me, if Dre wouldn't have done that for me, I can guarantee you I would still not be married to this day. Yeah. I can guarantee that because I wouldn't have had the courage in someone saying it's okay. Like, if it doesn't go the way that you've planned, I still got your back. Like, but just so you know, Like, you are called to do more. You are called higher. You are called to not live like this. It's not okay that you feel this way, because I was sad, and I was depressed, and I was anxious, and there were so many things that were tied to not having that covenant with God, with him, where it made me feel like that I was less than that.
Insecurity. Yep.
Everything crept in, because you're like, what's wrong with me?
Why won't he?
Why won't he? Why, and then you're trapped, and then you think, well, now I've got a family. Like, how can I now? Now I'm going to let somebody down. But I just want you to know that, like, if you surrender that, if you surrender the what ifs, because you can't what if your whole life, like, if you surrender that piece, that's where your breakthrough is, because it's no longer that it's in your strength, it's in the Lord's strength, and he will do far more better. Because you know what? Your story might not be like mine, and you might not end up with a guy, but it might be because the Lord has somebody better for you, somebody that is more spiritually aligned than you, or whatever. We don't know, but
sometimes it could be protection. Rejection isn't always rejection. Yes. Sometimes it's protection.
Yes. But in my case, I am thankful. No, I'm just playing, but I am. He's wonderful.
Yeah, we had dinner with them last night, and we had a fun time.
We did. It was so good.
And then she picked up her dog.
Oh my!
She took her to the groomer. I said, "What is wrong with that dog?" Oh yeah, we did go to ice cream, but they cut her dog's hair. All sorts of.
I have a golden doodle,
and
it's
wild.
Now I'm not quite sure what the dog looks like, but it's not a poodle or a golden retriever. It looks interesting. $178 later. So if anyone knows of a great groomer, holla at your girl.
Anyways, well, thank you, Kelsi, for coming on our podcast today. It was fun.
This was fun.
I feel like this was really great insight for a lot of women that may be struggling with this. Because there is no value in marriage anymore. And I feel like we need to find it again.
Yeah.
We throw divorce around like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And the Lord loves covenant. He loves marriage. Why would he make it if he didn't love it? Yeah. So anyways, really great today. Thank you for coming on.
I love you so much.
I love you. I love y'all. And we will see you next time.